Are you on the fence with comics adapted to animated movies? If so, have no fear, because Green Lantern's light is here. Or, or am I blue? Or even white? I don't know. I haven't taken that quiz yet on the internet. For decades, comic fans have relished the moment that their comics got adapted into an animated movie because first we're reading the comic and then next we're seeing the comic flow into this animated movie. There's so many good things about comics being adapted into movies. There's so many good ones. I mean, look at Marvel, Ultimate Avengers, Planet Hulk, their Doctor Strange one. Look at DC, Superman, Doomsday, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, First Flight. So many good ones from both Marvel and DC. And even though there are a lot of good things about comics being adapted to animated movies, like everything, there are also some bad things. So first off, let's start talking about the good things about comics being adapted into animated movies. The comic comes to life because, like I said earlier, you're reading the pages of the comic, you're seeing the art, but then when you watch the animated movie, you see them flow, you see them move, you bring these different types of voices instead of the ones in your head, because when we read, I'm sure we all have a different voice in our head as to what each character is. And not only do you get to hear some epic voices for your characters, you get to see these epic stories from the comics come to life and be living. They're actually living in this animated movie, and it just feels good watching it. Makes the story better. Now this is a case for both Marvel and DC. They both have animated movies where they got the story from the comic that was either a weak story, like it just wasn't good at all, or it was just a mediocre story where it was alright, but when it became an animated movie, the story just got a whole lot better. For example, you have Planet Hulk for Marvel, and you have Red Hood for DC. Both of those movies both came from story arcs in the comics that just got ultimately 10 times, 100 times better as an animated movie. Brings in new eyes. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean by this because there are a lot of people that don't read the comics and only watch the movies, whether they be live action or animated. And that's a lot of people out in the world. So when a comic gets adapted into an animated movie, it's reaching a new audience that it didn't before because those people didn't read the comics. So it brings in all these people to watch these certain stories, maybe just certain characters, and sometimes it does help by bringing them to read the comic later on after they see the movie or the TV show and they really like that. Sometimes there are stories in the comics that are just really good that you like a lot, but when you see it become an animated movie, they give it a new spin so you can see something different. Because sometimes people don't want to keep seeing the same thing. They want to keep seeing different spins, different takes, alternate realities, alternate endings, whatever it may be. And overall, it just helps the creators be more creative by giving the story that they are adapting or the characters that they are adapting into an animated movie a new spin on it. And like always, it's time to get to the bad things about comics being adapted into animated movies. First off, sometimes you mesh up too many stories. And what do I mean by this? Look at Justice League Throne of Atlantis, for example. That movie meshes up different arcs from recent comics in DC for the New 52 with Aquaman, and it just doesn't work well in the animated movie. They disregard a couple key moments from some of those stories that they are trying to adapt, and while they're meshing it, they're forgetting what the whole story was about in the comic, and overall just it not being good. I mean, I did say a good thing was that these creators can take a new spin, but sometimes a new spin doesn't necessarily mean just mesh up all the different arcs that you can find on a certain character and make an animated movie out of it. Animation doesn't fit right, and for this, there is a shining example with the recent Marvel animated movies with Iron Man Rise of the Technivore, Black Widow, Punisher. Those animated movies just don't work. They're the anime type animation, and I don't hate anime. I really do like anime. I just don't think, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, that the anime style doesn't fit the superheroes. There is a different type of animation that the superheroes should have, and it shouldn't be anime. Look, Justice League Throne of Atlantis might not have been a good movie, but at least it had some good animation from DC, while for Marvel, those like the anime type ones just doesn't work with it. Voice actors don't match the characters, and this has happened on many occasions. Though there are some great moments where voice actors will come in to voice a character in an animated movie and they instantly become the staple that and the name that is synonymous with that character in animation, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And lastly, various demographics. Now, I did say a good thing was that this animated movie that comics are being adapted into brings in new eyes, brings in audiences that wouldn't necessarily be into it when they were reading the comics, or they weren't just reading the comics in general. But this time, you're kind of alienating some of your key demographic that were reading the comics. Yes, people who are comic fans will most likely go and watch the animated movies, but if, for example, I keep going back to this one, but it's such a key example, Justice League Throne of Atlantis by DC. You have all the people that loved Aquaman in the New 52, loved those certain storylines when they were separate, and when you saw it in the movie and they didn't mesh well, and you alienated that demographic, the people that were hardcore comic fans that really liked the stories in the comic that necessarily didn't like the way it was being presented in the animated movie. And that happens a lot of times for both Marvel and DC. They don't necessarily represent it right, the certain story, the certain character from the comic into an animated movie, and you lose that audience. And it is a key audience. So overall, even though there are some bad things about comics being adapted into animated movies, there are a lot of good things as well. And of course, it's not about what I think, it's about what you think. So make sure to comment down below about how you feel. Do you like when comics are being adapted into an animated movie? Do you not like when your comics are being adapted into an animated movie? Make sure to comment down below and let's have a conversation. What is going on, people? Thank you for watching my video. Make sure to give it a like and also share it around. And if you want to see my previous video, make sure to check out the video on the right, and make sure to check out another great video on this awesome channel right there on the left. Also check out the links below. And that's it.